when you're thinking about traveling somewhere new, but then there's this tiny bit of, oh no, that creeps in.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it's like somewhere you don't speak the language. You know what I mean? It can feel like a real hurdle,
It can.
a real obstacle.
Mhm.
But what if we told you there are some like really smart and almost sneaky simple ways to kind of just navigate those language bumps and make them feel like little pebbles, you know?
I think that feeling of being surrounded by language that you don't understand, it's so common, right? Like you're just bombarded with all these sounds you don't get. But the good news is you absolutely don't need to be fluent to have a really good trip. And that's where these clever viral language travel hacks come in. You know, they're like little shortcuts or cheats almost to a much more relaxed trip and a fun trip, too.
Exactly. And the brain behind these brilliant strategies is Salvador Ordorica, who's a real thought leader in the world of global communication. And he's been sharing these fantastic kind of YouTube short-inspired ideas about how to navigate these situations.
Yeah.
So your mission for this deep dive, should you choose to accept it, is to arm yourself with some seriously practical and sometimes surprisingly humorous ways to face those language barriers head on.
I'm ready.
Let's dive right in, shall we? Okay, let's start with something we all encounter. Food. You're in a new country. You're handed a menu that looks like it's written in another galaxy.
Yeah.
Sound familiar to you?
Oh, the classic traveler's moment of truth, right?
This
Hungry, everything looks amazing or completely mysterious, and you just have no clue what you're about to order.
I know, and so Salvador Ordorica highlights this wonderfully simple trick, which he calls the point and smile hack.
I love that one.
It's genius.
It's so good.
Seriously, just like take a look around the restaurant, find a dish that looks delicious, point at it with a friendly smile for the waiter, and that's it. Apparently, this has saved countless travelers from, ordering complete unknowns, and even led to some really incredible, unexpected food discoveries. It taps into a really fundamental aspect of human interaction, doesn't it?
It really does. I think we naturally respond to positive nonverbal cues, right?
Right.
And especially I think about, when you are the one who's maybe serving or helping someone who doesn't speak the language, you're also trying to communicate as much as possible with your face. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
Like to put them at ease.
That's a human connection.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that reliance on visual information and those nonverbal signals.
Yeah.
It's like a very primal way we connect. And then I love the bonus tip, right? The bonus tip of trying to say, I'll have what they're having in the local language.
Yes.
Adds a little bit of adventurous spirit, a chance for a tiny connection. And even if your pronunciation isn't perfect, who cares, right?
Absolutely.
You tried.
Exactly. Okay, next up, a situation I think we've all been in. The sudden urgent need for a restroom in a place where you just don't speak the language. This is definitely not the time to be fumbling through a phrase book.
Oh, no, absolutely not. When nature calls, with urgency, trying to decipher complex linguistic instructions is like the last thing on your mind.
For sure. And so the clever trick here involves that amazing tool most of us carry around our phone's translation app. And most of them now have that camera mode, right?
Yeah.
Where you can literally just point it at a sign
Oh, yeah.
that you see. And while those universal restroom symbols are absolute lifesavers,
Absolutely.
this can help you decipher maybe any local variations or
Yeah.
any extra bits of information you might need to know.
And you know what I love about this tip is it really highlights how powerful, readily available technology can be in bridging these gaps, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's incredible that we have these tools at our fingertips and then that pro tip
Yes.
to download offline translation packs.
So
Genius. Because you never know when you might be in a situation with absolutely zero internet service.
you don't know.
And you really need to understand that sign.
Absolutely.
So planning for those tech limitations can really be key.
Definitely. Now, speaking of those translation apps, as helpful as they are, they're not always flawless, are they?
No, they are not.
And there's this really funny, but also potentially slightly alarming hack that Salvador Ordorica brings up, which he calls the AI translation fail.
Oh, no.
And imagine this. You're trying to give someone a compliment, and your well-intentioned translation comes out as a complete insult.
Oh, that's the worst.
I know.
Because you know what I think about is those models are working on predicting the most statistically likely translation based on this huge amount of data.
Yeah.
But they don't actually grasp the subtleties or the nuances of human communication.
The tone.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the really important hack here is to always Always double-check
Yes.
those AI translations. Maybe if you can run it by a local or even cross-reference it with a couple of different translation tools before you actually say it out loud.
Exactly.
And Salvador Orderica's advice to stick to those verified basic phrases is absolutely spot on. Things like, thank you, please. Excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
How much is this?
Yeah.
And the incredibly crucial,
Yes.
where is the bathroom? These are like your foundational linguistic safety net.
They really are. And that list really covers the basics of politeness,
Absolutely.
those fundamental needs. And it's always better to be understood in a simple way
Yes,
than to be misunderstood in a very complex way.
totally. Okay, moving on to something that sounds really intriguing, the secret menu decoder. Have you ever had that little nagging feeling like maybe the locals are getting a better deal?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even tastier food
Mm-hmm.
than us tourists?
I think that's a suspicion a lot of travelers have.
Yeah,
And, sometimes, unfortunately, it can be true.
it can be.
Especially in super touristy areas. They might have a separate tourist menu with inflated prices.
Yeah.
Or even maybe dishes that aren't really representative of the local cuisine. You
Yes.
get what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh.
And so the hack here is to politely ask, maybe even attempting a few words in the local language
Mhm.
for the local menu.
I love that.
And then whip out your translation app's camera and start decoding those potentially hidden culinary gems and maybe even some better prices.
Yeah.
There's even this great story from Italy where this little trick saved someone a whopping 40 euros
Wow.
and introduced them to some fantastic pasta they wouldn't have otherwise found.
That's awesome.
So it's about being a savvy traveler and not being afraid to politely inquire
Yeah.
and use the tools you have
Totally.
at your disposal.
And that story, I think, really makes the hack feel tangible, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like, okay, this isn't just some abstract idea.
Right.
This is something that can actually lead to real savings and like a more authentic experience, right?
Yeah.
It's about empowering yourself to kind of go beyond that surface level tourist experience.
Yeah.
And the translation app becomes like your secret decoder ring.
It does. Okay, now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something that's not about words at all. Nonverbal communication. We all use gestures, but apparently there's a gesture that works in 50 countries, except this one. That sounds like a recipe for some seriously awkward moments.
Oh, it does. And it is because gestures are definitely not universal.
Right.
And what might seem like a completely harmless sign in one culture can actually be deeply offensive in another. So cultural awareness goes beyond language. You know what I mean?
It does. It does. And so the really simple hack here is to do even a little bit of research on common hand gestures in the country you're visiting before you even leave.
Yeah.
The example that Salvador Orderica gives is the OK gesture.
Oh, yeah.
Which is totally fine in many parts of the world, but can be considered quite rude
Oh, yeah.
in Brazil, for example.
Really offensive.
I know. And so the general advice is to probably stick to more universally friendly gestures,
Yeah.
like a thumbs up or a simple nod, just to kind of play it safe
Yeah.
and avoid any unintentional offense.
Exactly. And it's a really important reminder that understanding a culture involves more than just the language.
Right.
It does,
Very
like,
nice.
even a little bit of research on the local customs, including those nonverbal cues, can really help you navigate things more smoothly.
Okay, so what happens when our trusty technology lets us down? Our phone battery dies. We find ourselves in a remote area with no signal. That's where the offline translation emergency kit comes in. And this is wonderfully old school.
I love this one. And in our increasingly digital world, having that backup plan that doesn't depend on batteries or Wi-Fi is so crucial.
Sure.
And this one is just brilliant in its simplicity and reliability.
It is. It's literally just printing out and laminating a small card with some essential emergency phrases in multiple languages.
Yeah.
And keeping it safely tucked away in your wallet.
Yeah.
Paper never runs out of battery, does it?
Never. And it's so easy to lose your phone or for your phone to break or to get stolen. But that piece of paper,
That little card.
yeah, you're probably going to keep that on you.
You got it. And so it's that tangible resource you can rely on in those situations.
And it's amazing how reassuring it can be to know that you have that, you know, even if everything else fails.
Absolutely.
You've got that.
Now, getting lost in a new city where you don't speak the language is never a fun experience.
Never fun.
But Salvador Orderica highlights a really clever tech solution for this, the 3-word location hack. Tell me more about this What 3 Words app.
Okay, so what three words is really cool because they basically took the entire surface of the Earth and divided it up into a grid of 3 by 3 meter squares.
Wow.
And each one of these tiny squares has been assigned a unique three-word identifier.
That's amazing.
And so instead of trying to describe a location using street names you can't pronounce or landmarks that might not be clear, you just use these three words.
I love that.
And unlike, complex GPS coordinates, which are really easy to mistype or hard to remember,
Yeah.
these three-word addresses are designed to be easily communicated and remembered.
So clever. So if I find myself completely turned around, I just open the app. It pinpoints my exact 3 by 3 meter square, and I can send those three words, let's say table.lamp.spoon,
I love that.
to my travel buddy or a local guide, and they don't know exactly where I am.
Exactly. It removes all of that ambiguity
It does.
of trying to explain your location, especially in areas where there might not be clear landmarks or street addresses.
That sounds like it could be an absolute game changer for peace of mind while traveling.
It really is.
Okay, next up is something incredibly important for anyone with dietary restrictions. The allergy card that saved my life.
This is such a crucial hack, and it can have really serious consequences.
As you can.
If there's a misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
Because when you're ordering food, you want to be sure that you're communicating that effectively.
Right.
And so many people have allergies these days.
Yeah, and the idea is so simple, but so effective. Create a laminated card with clear, concise descriptions and even pictures of your specific allergies translated into the local language. You just show this card to the restaurant staff before you order your meal.
Yeah.
It sounds so straightforward, but as the title suggests, this could genuinely save your life.
It really could.
Because it removes any potential for misunderstanding when explaining something so critical.
Yeah.
And the visual element, I think, is genius.
No, it's so smart.
Because
especially if there might be variations in how different ingredients are described,
Totally. And you can just point to the picture.
Exactly. You don't even need to know the word for it.
It takes out the guesswork.
Yeah, it just removes that risk of miscommunication.
Yeah.
When you're trying to explain something as important as, it's a serious food allergy.
All right. For those of us who appreciate getting a good deal.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the silent haggling technique. This sounds absolutely perfect for those bustling markets where you don't share a common language with the vendors.
Yeah, haggling is so fun, and it can be a really expected part of the experience in so many countries.
It is.
But it can also be really intimidating if you don't speak the language, right?
I can imagine. And so the brilliant hack here is to use your phone's calculator.
Oh, that's good.
To type out the price you're offering and then pass the phone back and forth with the vendor. It's completely visual, it's clear for both parties, and it pretty much works anywhere a calculator is understood. The pro tip here is to always be respectful and approach it kind of in a lighthearted way, almost like a little game, keeping the tone friendly throughout the whole negotiation.
Exactly, because it keeps the interaction positive, right?
Yeah.
And you're avoiding that potential frustration that might arise from a language barrier.
Yeah.
It's all about the numbers, and that's universal.
It is universal, finally, for anyone who wants to learn a few essential phrases before their trip, but is maybe a bit short on time.
Yeah.
There's the rather unconventional language learning shower hack.
Yeah.
I am intrigued by this one.
This is so clever, and it's a really efficient way to learn new phrases without having to carve out extra time. Because we're all busy, and it's hard to, add one more thing to our to-do list.
Exactly. So the idea is you simply write down those key travel phrases you want to learn on a clear shower curtain liner.
Oh, fun.
Using a waterproof marker.
Yeah.
And then while you're in the shower, you can read them.
It's genius.
The daily, even if brief exposure can really help with memorization. And as a bonus point, it might give your roommates a bit of a laugh.
Oh, absolutely. They'll be like, what are you doing?
But you'll be the one confidently ordering food in another language.
Exactly. So it's all about finding those little pockets of time, to immerse yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. And that little boost of confidence from knowing even a few basic phrases can make such a huge difference.
A huge difference.
In your experience.
I love these. These are so incredibly helpful and practical. It really goes to show you do not need to be fluent in another language.
No, you don't.
To confidently navigate and thoroughly enjoy a trip to another country.
Exactly. And they're all about finding those creative workarounds,
Yeah.
Using the tools that we have available to us and just making things smoother and more fun.
Absolutely. So for you listening, Think about your next adventure. Which of these brilliant hacks resonates most with your personal travel style? Maybe it's that adventurous point and smile for trying new foods.
Yeah.
Or perhaps that incredibly reassuring allergy card for
Yeah.
complete peace of mind.
And if you're keen to dive even deeper into these expert insights,
Yes.
with a good dose of humor and really actionable strategies to help you avoid costly international mistakes, you have to subscribe to Salvador Ordorica's Fantastic Translation Tales YouTube channel.
Absolutely, he has a wealth of knowledge.
It is.
Minimizing those language barriers really does open up a whole new world of possibilities when you travel, doesn't it?
It really does.
It allows for those deeper, more meaningful connections, those more authentic experiences, and a whole lot less travel-related stress.
For sure.
So here's to your next incredible adventure, and may your travels be smooth, fascinating, and absolutely filled with those wonderful, unexpected discoveries.
Cheers to that.